We are going to dive into part 2 of session 2, where we have 3 speakers here to talk about business models, funding, and marketing. So up first, we have Leah Heifetz, who is going to be talking about product development and marketing, and she is the co-founder of Barnacle Foods. So welcome, Leah.
Okay. Hi, I'm Leah Heifetz. I am one of the owners of Barnacle Foods, along with my partners Matt and Max. And about 2 years ago, we also partnered with Sea Alaska, the regional native corporation, and they've been an amazing partner supporting our growth. I'm going to give you a very quick tour of what we do at Barnacle Foods, and then hopefully we'll have some time for questions at the very end. We are a food business, but on any given day, we are making food along with 10 plus other activities that we're participating in. We are actively working on scientific research. We are building partnerships with communities and businesses. We're talking with farmers and people who are thinking about kelp farming. We're exploring logistics. We're on the water harvesting kelp, which is where our team likes to have their photo taken the most. And we're doing all this while running a bona fide food production factory. We make foods out of Alaska-grown kelp, and we feature kelp as the first ingredient in a line of hot sauces, salsas, pickles, seasonings, and barbecue sauce. We've been operating for about 6 years now, and we have about 15 different products that we've brought to market. We're working with about 800 retailers around the country to sell these products, and have very ambitious goals for growing and continuing into the future. So before we talk too much about the process we use to make these products and what we do, I am going to briefly talk about how we started and why we started Barnacle Foods. And specifically from my perspective, I grew up here in Juneau and have a deep appreciation for our oceans and the communities and the people that live here, and was really inspired to start a business that could be used as a tool for positive change. And while thinking about what this business could be, there were whispers of the mariculture industry. And at this time, kelp salsa was something that was filling my pantry at home. It was a hobby that got fairly out of hand, starting with, filling just a couple cupboards to like a stack this high in the garage. This is what lit the spark. There was this gap identified in the emerging mariculture industry, the need for processors and a market, and we had this kelp salsa. So fast forward, we're doing much more than kelp salsa. That is not our flagship product at this point, but was the inspiration. And we call ourselves Barnacle Foods because we are rooted here to the coastline. And we are interested in being a processor of kelp that is bringing that value or keeping the value from the resource here in Alaska and close to the places where the resource is coming from. So like the humble barnacle, we're here to withstand the ebb and flow of the tides, the salt spray, the 70-mile-an-hour wind, whatever it is, we're stuck to the coast. We're not going anywhere. Kelp spoke to us for a number of different reasons. Its flavor and versatility in the kitchen, its unparalleled nutrition, we like to call it your ocean multivitamin, and its potential to be the most regenerative food our oceans and planet can provide were all motivating factors to use this ingredient. And as many of us know, there's growing consensus that the more kelp that we can grow and harvest and carbon that we can pull out of the ocean, the better off our planet's going to be. And there's people who want to see this scaled and invested in. So the question we are all presented with, and that we think of ourselves as working towards solving at Barnacle Foods, is how can such a benevolent activity, that of growing seaweed, farming kelp, actually sustain itself financially? Hot sauce. Hot sauce is part of the answer to that question, and has been increasingly confirming that we can answer that question and we have a potential solution. But really our approach to solving this challenge at hand is by creating products to invigorate the market and processes that invigorate the market. And so the way that we have gone about product development at Barnacle Foods is to create products that are familiar to people, products that people know how to use, that they can eat every day and that feature kelp as the first ingredient in them. So creating products that are delicious is first priority. And if someone can eat that and want to eat more of it and then find out that there's kelp in it, that's a win. That's a win for us, and that's a win for everyone who wants to make food out of kelp. Another way that we have grown our business is through product diversity. So we've had the opportunity to do a lot of experimenting and have created products and been able to test them on the market. So our sauces and condiments are made with fresh kelp, and we have a line of seasonings that's made with dried kelp. Product collaborations has been another way we've reached new and broader audiences. This is a collaboration that we did with Alaska Brewing Company here in town. It's a barbecue sauce that we released last year, and it features Alaska-grown kelp as well as Alaskan amber beer as the first ingredient in it. So jumping back to the operational front, I'm going to jump in real quickly to how we source our kelp and how we make our products. We source our kelp from a variety of sources that can be categorized into wild kelp and farmed kelp. And this is just a quick synopsis of both of those. Bull kelp is the species that we are most interested in, and there's a number of different reasons we're interested in bull kelp. Culinarily, it's very unique. It has a stipe and a fronds. The stipe is a hearty, crunchy stem. It has a really delicate flavor. It lends itself really well to all sorts of food. It's mild in flavor. It's not polarizing. The fronds are very similar to many of the other blade species that are grown around the world and are being successfully grown on farms. And we have done a lot of product development around bull kelp with hopes that we can source more and more of it from kelp farms. Bull kelp also presents a really interesting and unique opportunity for Alaska. So bull kelp is endemic to the Pacific Ocean, the west coast of North America. This is a species that hasn't been grown before. So that's presenting some new challenges to how we are going to grow it successfully with yields that are sustainable for kelp farms. But this is something really unique that we can offer a global market that can't be found anywhere else. When we harvest bull kelp, we sort it into stipe and frond totes. And from the moment it is pulled out of the water, it's treated like food. And this is a really important part of our operation, and we think to the entire industry as it grows. Unlike many other species of conventional seafood, we like to keep it in fairly raw form. And so everything from the gloves that we're using, the tools we're using to harvest, the decks of the boats, those need to be treated like they're a surface that is touching your food. Another component of harvesting bull kelp, and likely all species of kelp, is that different processes and handling techniques will need to be used for different parts of the kelp and species. So we have highly differentiated process that we use to stabilize the stipe and the frond, and that's another reason we sort them. We take the responsibility of harvesting wild kelp very seriously and think of ourselves as stewards of the resource, and think that there is a lot of potential to create a harvesting method and management when it comes to wild harvesting that can be good for our communities and that can sustain itself in healthy growth. We are actively doing research while we're harvesting. So last year, we started aerial drone surveys to start to quantify the abundance and distribution of the wild kelp. This is a photo from a drone that was taken of us harvesting. These are two of our small little harvesting skiffs. This is out towards the outer coast west of Juneau. And we are working with researchers to set up protocols for drone and aircraft mapping. So this is an image of an orthomosaic map. This is hundreds of images taken by drone that have been stitched together. And this is a tool that we think can be used to make decisions about how the mariculture industry grows and how wild kelp harvesting could potentially grow as well. And this information we feel is essential to developing this industry in a responsible way. Harvesting on a kelp farm looks quite different. This is Seagrove Kelp Farm. We heard from Marcos a few minutes ago, and we've worked with Marcos over the years. There's a lot more opportunity or a different opportunity for automation and efficiency when it comes to harvesting on a kelp farm, and that same care and quality and attention to detail and food safety needs to stay of top of mind. Processing. We like to move kelp around the same way that the fishing industry moves seafood around. We use insulated totes. We're concerned with temperatures. Cold temps is preferred, and there are specific handling requirements that we've come up with and we're working to develop with our harvesters. We do spend a lot of time on the water and talking with kelp farmers, but most of our time is in the kitchen. So the next couple slides are just a few snapshots of what we do at our production facility. I love these photos, although they were taken many years ago at a small kitchen that we're not operating in, but it really showcases kelp. And that's really something unique that bull kelp offers us as well. These kelp pickles have been a product where we've been able to get the attention of people because they're so aesthetically interesting. So while these might not be the most approachable food compared to our salsas and our hot sauces, the kelp pickles catch people's eyes, and they are beautiful. I don't know if these will work. Okay. Let's see. Oh, here we go. Okay. So this is the production facility that we operate now. It's a 5,000 square foot facility that we operate year-round, 5 days a week. We have a crew of about 8 people that are working with us year-round. And the video that's playing now is a time lapse, we're not actually working that fast, of a bull kelp tote that had been poured out onto our sorting table, and some primary processing is being done to stabilize it, and then we're able to freeze it and pull it out year-round so we can make our products. And this next video is what we like to call the pickle machine. This is the most manual product that we make, so each jar is stuffed by hand, and you can see on the right side the pickles going into the jars, and then the finished product is coming out on a conveyor there. Another big part of our operation is fulfillment. So we do take orders directly through our website, and we ship to people around the country directly to their doors. And so we're shipping and packing those boxes out on a daily basis, and we are shipping out pallets of products multiple times a week to our retailers and distributors around the country. There are many challenges that we face. Some are not unique to Barnacle Foods, some are not unique to the mariculture industry, but I'll go over a few of those. Logistics are one of them. We spend a lot of time considering how we're going to move supplies into the state and move ingredients around the state, how we're going to get that fresh kelp from the kelp farm or from the harvest grounds to our facility in time. So we look to the existing infrastructure that's around to start with. We've used the ferries, we use the barge lines, we use tenders who are going from point A to point B. Another challenge that has become very real for us, which is not unique to us, is the labor crisis. It had a significant impact on our business over the last year, although we're hoping we're in a better position today. And a big one that I'm hoping some of us in this room can start to work on or continue to work on is the farming of bull kelp. So we would love to see resources from grants or efforts by institutions being put towards addressing this significant challenge. We would love to source more of the kelp that we use from kelp farms, and have found that bull kelp is the product that resonates the most with our customers. There is demand for bull kelp that outweighs the supply right now. The future of mariculture is bright. I am so grateful to be in this room, surrounded by people who are also working on developing this industry and creating an industry that can do so much good for our communities and our coastline. And I hope that there are more opportunities for collaboration. And it seems that there are more and more organizations dedicating resources and putting time into solving some of the challenges that we have at hand. So events like this, I hope will continue to take place and that we can work together to really make sure that this industry is built in a way that the most benefit is brought to our communities and our coasts and to Alaska. With that, you can find me. My email is up there. I'll be around. You can also learn more about Barnacle Foods at our website, barnaclefoods.com. We have a very active social media presence. You can check us out there at Barnacle Foods. Thank you.
Thank you, Leah. And yeah, if you guys haven't already, I would highly recommend popping onto their website and purchasing some products, or you can even walk over to IGA from here and get a couple bottles of their hot sauce. It's forever my Christmas gift to friends and family down south. So up next, we have Taya Thomas, who is the founder of Royal Ocean Kelp Company. So welcome, Taya.
My sister, who claims to know everything, told me that it was imperative that I begin my presentation with a bit of levity, more specifically a kelp joke. Well, I went to Google, I went to Siri, I went to Alexa, I even went to TikTok to find a kelp joke. And guess what? There were no jokes to be found. And over time, it has become obvious to me that kelp has absolutely no sense of humor. Hi, my name is Taya Thomas. For the past 35 years, I've been a commercial fisherman in Cordova. But this past fall, I started a small kelp farm growing sugar and ribbon kelp, and believe me, it's been no joke. When I first served on an ASME committee almost 20 years ago, I was told by the director of marketing, don't sell the steak, sell the sizzle. At first, this was hard to wrap my head around, but now I understand that selling something is all about the story. Many consumers are interested in where their food comes from and who grew or harvested it. Farming nutritious and delicious seafood and shellfish in the wild and pristine waters of Alaska is a great story. The coastal areas of Alaska are perfect for growing kelp and shellfish. Now we need to sell them to a much wider audience. I'm going to cover 3 important components of a marketing plan for Alaska mariculture. First, we need a legislative change to bring aquatic plants and cultivated shellfish into the family of seafood products that the Alaska Seafood Marketing Institute, ASME, can promote. Second, we need consumer-facing research, including the environmental benefits, nutritional information, and flavor profiles of our mariculture products. And third, we need to create consumer pull for our products using executive chefs and food writers to create excitement and interest. The Alaska Seafood Marketing Institute is a public-private partnership between the state of Alaska and the Alaska seafood industry. ASME celebrated its 40th anniversary in 2021. During those 40 years, the Alaska seafood logo has become the second most recognized brand in the United States. The Alaska brand stands for quality, sustainability, and delicious seafood. It also stands for pure and pristine environments and healthy ecosystems. ASME promotes every species of wild seafood harvested from the waters of Alaska, but it does not promote seaweed and shellfish. The species that are promoted by ASME are not individually assessed. The processors pay a voluntary tax based on the value of the products they produce. If we include seaweed and shellfish into the definition of seafood, the value when sold by the processors would be included in the seafood marketing assessment that is paid to ASME. Including mariculture products into the definition of seafood also brings those products into the regulatory framework of tracking and taxing our seafood industry. These products would be included in the fisheries business tax, This would not only benefit the state of Alaska, it would benefit our coastal communities. It has been forecasted that the value of the mariculture industry in Alaska in the next 10 or 20 years could reach $100 million, including 22 million pounds of kelp and 48 million shellfish. The state of Alaska does not want to lose out on the potential tax revenue or on the ability to regulate this industry. ASME has both domestic and international marketing programs that have broad reach in the retail and food service sectors. ASME has an annual budget of $16 million and a staff of 20 full-time employees, with overseas marketing representatives in 8 global regions. Just think about what this amazing organization could do for our industry when they start marketing our mariculture products. The second important component of a marketing plan is consumer-facing research. Research as it relates to the people who are going to buy and cook our seaweed and shellfish. Kelp absorbs 5 times more carbon than land-based plants. Kelp removes excess nitrogen from the ocean. The climate is warming and drying, and land-based agricultural yields could decrease dramatically in the years to come. Farming kelp and shellfish does not require land, fresh water, or fertilizers. This is a great story, but it's important to have robust research about the restorative effects of ocean farming to back up these claims. It is also important to have comprehensive chemical composition and nutritional analysis for all the different types of seaweed and shellfish that we grow on our farms. Nutritional analysis ensures that food products are free of contaminants. Transparency about ingredients and nutritional value in food products allows consumers to make healthier choices and helps authorities who will regulate the industry. Nutritional analysis in the hands of registered dietitians can also be advantageous. Registered dietitians are perceived as independent experts who provide credible information to consumers. The combination of nutritional analysis and outreach by dietitians goes a long way to build trust and loyalty in consumers. The technical research should also include flavor analysis. These flavor profiles include aroma, taste, intensity, aftertaste, and texture. Consumers respond to information about flavor. Many mariculture products, but specifically kelp, is known to have a rich umami flavor. We need to document and promote this characteristic. Some land-based crops use the French term terroir for describing the soil, sunlight, water quality, and microclimate of the different regions where crops such as wine, coffee, and chocolate are grown. Our ocean products could also be promoted using the characteristic known as terroir, which conveys differences in salinity, sunlight, temperature, freshwater intrusion, and currents that create the subtle taste differences of our different growing regions. The research into the environmental factors, nutrition, and flavor of our seaweed and shellfish will identify for chefs, retail buyers, and the food service industry the products that we have to offer. Most food trends are started by executive chefs and high-end restaurants. We need to enlist the help of celebrity chefs to become acquainted with, develop recipes for, and to serve our seaweed and shellfish in their restaurants. Chefs create an aura of quality and sophistication. They create buzz and excitement about new food products. This buzz creates consumer awareness and what we call pull in the marketplace. Pull in the marketplace is when consumers know what they want and ask for it. Food trends are driven by consumers seeing interesting ingredients on food, on restaurant menus, and on cable food networks. Products are seen as premium when chefs use them in their recipes. Retail buyers watch what is trending in the world of high-end chefs and restaurants. They often only choose to stock an item after reports from social media confirm that it is in demand. We will need chefs, food writers, and lifestyle ambassadors using and promoting our mariculture products. Often, getting our products into the hands of these key chefs and food writers begins with a sampling program. The program would include sending samples directly to them to use in their restaurants and asking in exchange for the chefs to develop recipes. When consumers visit food websites, the #1 thing they're looking for is recipes. A marketing program could also reach out to chefs by conducting food demonstrations at the Culinary Institute of America. Another way to reach consumers directly is by in-store demonstrations. These demos are a relatively inexpensive way to introduce consumers to new food products. One of the early and most popular ASME programs was in-store demos with Alaska fishermen cooking and serving salmon. Any marketing program should also involve bringing chefs and food writers to Alaska. When people from the lower 48 are brought to coastal Alaska, they experience the beauty, self-sufficiency, and rich maritime culture. They can't help but be amazed. Familiarization tours, known as FAM tours, have long been a tradition with ASME and the Regional Seafood Development Associations. Alaska, with its wild beauty and independent fishermen and farmers working on the sea, captures the imagination. Consumers want a small part of that through buying our products. A giant step forward for marketing our mariculture products would begin with the legislative change to bring seaweed and shellfish into the ASME family. But if we have to build a marketing program without ASME, then it will best be managed by the Alaska Mariculture Alliance. The new Alaska Mariculture Alliance represents all facets of the mariculture industry and every region. The AMA, as soon as funds are available, would need to hire a marketing director and possibly enlist the services of a national marketing agency. Hiring a marketing director and implementing a marketing plan will take time and money. But unless we get the Alaska statutes changed, this is what needs to be done. As I said earlier, the coastal areas of Alaska are perfect for growing kelp. Perfect for growing kelp and shellfish. Now we need to sell them to a much wider audience. Asians eat some form of seaweed 3 times a day. Americans think of seaweed as something slimy littering their beaches. From seaweed to superfood is a big change, but not impossible. We need to change the perception in the minds of consumers. We need to work together to make these changes and not be divided by region or species. If we work together, we can indeed create a $100 million mariculture industry in the next 10 to 20 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Taya. Up next, we have Robert Venables of the Southeast Conference here to talk about the Alaska Mariculture Cluster.
All right, thank you. And Marcos, I too fancied myself in fisheries, but I just could not live off the net income. Maybe a couple angels got their wings, I don't know. Okay. But I am the executive director for Southeast Conference, and there was no escaping mariculture. We've got a number of former board members, like Julie Decker, who's always, in my mind, the godmother of the industry. And, you know, when your board president is married to the salty lady, and our past president is, you know, Premium Aquatics and Seagrove Kelp, there's no escaping. But really pleased to learn a lot. I'm not the industry expert, but I am proud to be an industry facilitator and kind of talk to you about some of the things that we're involved with to enable what we've heard throughout the day today, what we're going to hear about more tomorrow, and you know that right there is taken straight out of the handbook you've already seen and referred to earlier today. But Southeast Conference is the regional development organization for Southeast Alaska. We're boundary challenged, so you know, we never stay within confines. But when your mission is really beyond yourself, you look for partnerships. You depend on partnerships. They're vital to success. And so those partnerships are what I think Southeast Conference is most proud of accomplishing for what's happening within the region and what's happening with this mariculture cluster initiative that you see steering committee members listed there down below. But one of the other projects that we've got 2 mariculture projects going on right now. One is the concept has been alluded to earlier today as we talk about private-public partnerships and how do you help facilitate the needs of the industry as it's emerging for cooperative ventures, et cetera. And the Prince of Wales Tongass communities have been beset by economic challenges throughout with the timber industry, et cetera. And one of the things that the Forest Service recognizes that they wanted to invest in other alternatives that were available there. They do much more than just timber. They're the land managers for the whole region. But they've invested, provided funds for some pre-construction activities for a shared cooperative space for processing mariculture on Prince of Wales Island. And so we're working with Ed Duvall, who you'll hear from tomorrow, folks like Seagrove Kelp, and the communities. We're going to begin some intensive listening sessions on the island to understand what that need is and how we work cooperatively with the industry that's already there so we can identify and build the gap that would then support that industry around the island there. But then what we're really most excited about is what this Build Back Better regional challenge might be. And I just wanted to just do a quick shout out to some of the partners there that you see. The Economic Development Districts, there's 4 of us in the Lower Coast that are very, very committed to this. One of them is also here. Where's Margaret? She's somewhere over there. Raise your hand, Margaret. Where are you? Swampsies. She's here in the room someplace. But we've got all 4 of the districts are very, very committed to this. But we've got some amazing partnerships, and I think that was what really struck a chord that resonated, because the governor's office was very strongly in support of this, and really appreciate the team there that really helped secure that support. But then the university, and I hope I don't miss anybody, but starting at the top, of course, President Pitney and Chancellor Carey, thank you for that support. UAA's been right there. Joel Marcus at UAS. Justin, I know I've seen him twice already at the Alaska Blue Economy Center there in Fairbanks. Jenny and Missy with Seed Grant, the Mariculture Research and Training Center. Vital partners, and one of the most cherished for me is Central Council, who is really, you heard from President Peterson this morning, their heart is there, and they're providing us with really good supports between them and Sea Alaska here regionally, and we look to our tribal partners throughout for support as well. But the path towards this Build Back Better regional challenge is very interesting, and this is, there's $1 billion that's set aside that's being managed by EDA. The entire staff for the state of Alaska is here with us today. Yeah, the work of 4 or 5 people now rests on the shoulders of Shirley Kelly. Where are you, Shirley? I know you're here. There she is in the back row. She's an amazing champion for economic development and a great mentor as well. And so really appreciate the fact that out of 529 applications across the United States, we were one of 60 that were chosen as a finalist. And so we're really just extraordinarily excited about what that might mean for the industry, because there's a lot of businesses across the state, but it's not really an industry. So we're trying to see what we can do to support the scale that's important to create an industry out of the businesses that exist. And there he goes. A shout out to our champion that we just heard from shortly. I've been a fan of Leah since she from day one. I don't know how many years ago that was, but she has always been a champion of food security and quality products. So we're just real proud of the accomplishments that Barnacle Seafoods has done and what she's done along the way. But these are the 7 components that we worked on and recognized as key to the success of creating an industry that, but for investment from EDA, these would take 20 years to really materially impact and create the scale that we see the potential of. And so we put together the application just under $50 million with oops, let's go back. So yeah, so with the private investment that has been offered up and some of the match that has been supplied by a number of entities that we're really grateful for. It would be a total of $65 million to the state of Alaska, and in order to do each of these tasks, including a financing piece at the end, but also understanding that we need to do a lot more in the marketing and research and development, workforce, the equipment and technology that will support the antiquated and lacking need in the laboratories for testing, et cetera. Some really excellent opportunities for green energy, but then working with the state to also take a look at some of the policy and regulatory issues. But one of the things that is kind of the heartbeat of EDA and this project is the concept of equity, because the positive economic benefits of mariculture development, our plan is to make sure that it's focused on coastal rural Alaska, in the regions of our 4 districts where the activities of growing and harvesting and processing shellfish and seaweed and vegetable products occur, and we're some of the most historically underserved communities in our rural villages and communities, and underserved populations, Alaska Natives, in the whole country exist. So we've set aside, the entire money is available to all of them, but we've set aside 50% of the funds with a 25% carve out for rural underserved communities, and another 25% specifically set aside for Alaska Native applicants, and that's for each of the 7 tasks. So we're really committed to doing that. And some folks wondered why there may be a lack of specificity on, well, what exactly are you going to fund in years 2, 3, 4, 5? We like to see a lot of those projects outlined right now. Well, as we consulted with our tribal partners across the state, their timelines and processes are not the same as Washington, D.C.'s. When Washington, D.C. says you've got 2 weeks or 2 months to identify your investments, what we did is we identified a methodology, because we're setting up a governance body that will allow the time for the conversations, the trust building, and the appropriate planning within those underserved villages and communities to ensure the equitable distribution of the benefits of mariculture throughout coastal Alaska. So we need to hear, we need to understand and know where those projects really should occur. And that's going to take time. And so we're committed to making sure that that happens. And really, really pleased. I could dive into a lot of detail, but I know we've got some Q&A, and you should feel free to engage us throughout the days ahead. But I kind of want to also introduce the team, because Juliana is really the mariculture resident emerging expert for Southeast Conference. Where are you, Juliana? Raise your hand. Okay. Is Shelley here? Raise your hand. There you go. And then keeping us together, where's Sarah? She's not here. She left. Okay. So anyway, that's the team that many of you may have been approached by, will be approached by, engaged with, and I'm just really pleased with the collaborative opportunities that we've had to develop this application, which the announcement was made in the summertime. I did a simple math. It just wasn't going to work. There's going to be 529 applications. There's going to be 1,000 applications, and it just wasn't in my landlubber mind, wasn't going to work. Well, September comes around. Julie says, this is the time. We need to do it. And everybody rallied around, and it's been just an amazing process to date. And so we're really pleased to see how this is going to emerge and really energize and fast forward the opportunities to create a multifaceted, multi-level, comprehensive mariculture industry in the state of Alaska. So with that, I will thank you and let Julie come up and facilitate Q&A. Thanks.